Hi, this is Mary Amos and Kat Rue. In this presentation, we'll be discussing early childhood theories through the lens of Erikson and Piaget's stages of development. First, we'll explore Piaget's theory, focusing on the sensory motor stage and providing age-appropriate activities as well as suggestions for parents or caregivers. Next, we'll delve into Erikson's theory, focusing on trust versus mistrust stage as well as the autonomy versus shame stage, again providing helpful activities to promote children's development as well as suggestions for the roles of parents. So, introducing Piaget's stages of development. Piaget believed that thinking develops in discrete stages, so this is a more discontinuous view of childhood development. And in our presentation, we're focusing on early childhood from birth to 6 years, but we wanted to really home in on the sensory motor stage, which goes from birth to 2 years. And during this stage, children are gaining knowledge through their sensory and motor skills, and they're also learning aspects of mental representation, specifically object permanence. So for our first activity, we have a mental representation activity. Sarah, a 17-month-old baby, is exploring object permanence, so her mom engages with her in container play, letting Sarah put in blocks and toys in different size containers. Sarah's learning that a container gets filled up with objects even if you can't see it anymore. Once the box gets full, Sarah will dump out the box, revealing all of the objects that she had poured in earlier. Sarah's mom encourages her to play with different shapes and colors, and by letting Sarah interact with objects of different size, color, and texture, Sarah's learning how to interact with the world around her, and learning that things not only still exist even if you can't see them, but they take up the same amount of space in the container as they did outside of the container. So on to rewarding behaviors. In the sensory motor stage, there may be less implementation of punishment as the child is a baby for the majority of the stage. However, there are ample opportunities to reward behavior and steer the child towards appropriate growth. So engaging with the child in activities that explore their processing of sensory information, as well as their object permanence, like the aforementioned exercise with Sarah. And a good incentive might be buying age-appropriate toys that incorporate differing shapes and textures. Looking towards the pre-operational stage, ensuring that toddlers are beginning to speak and correctly pronouncing words and using proper grammar is also a good reward. So the role of the parent in the sensory motor stage should be assessing their children's understanding of sights, sounds, smells, textures, and tastes, also ensuring their grasp of mental representation and object permanence by playing games such as peekaboo. They can be useful for children's development during this stage. Parents can also encourage imitation, giving positive reinforcement when their child recreates behaviors they've observed. And in their development towards the pre-operational stage, parents might incorporate play that involves the development of imagination, as the pre-operational thought is the stage in which children learn how to use symbols or words and numbers to represent larger aspects of the world, which involves a lot of symbolism in play. So moving on to Erikson's stages of development. So for Piaget, that was more of a cognitive development theory, whereas Erikson is a psychosocial theory, but both are discontinuous. Erikson believed that stages were built on the foundation laid in previous stages. So the first stage that we'll focus on primarily in this presentation is birth to 1 year. So this is a basic trust versus mistrust, where children get a sense that the world is like a safe place or a good place for them to be. Babies are learning who to trust and how to trust in this stage. When they cry to express a need and a caregiver comes over to take care of them, they start getting a sense of security. Then the next stage is 1 to 3 years. This is autonomy versus shame. And in this stage, children realize that they're kind of an independent person who's able to make their own decisions. So the child can move around, pick things up and down, and start making decisions on their own. They find things that they can and cannot do, and if they're supported well, they'll become more confident about their ability to survive in the world. So for an autonomy activity, we have Todd, a 2-year-old boy that loves to pick out his own clothes, and his mom and dad are always around to watch him, but only offering help when he asks for it. Otherwise, they let him figure it out on his own, complimenting Todd for doing well when he succeeds in the task. For breakfast, they'll let Todd choose between at least 2 options, such as what brand of cereal, or whether he'd like milk or orange juice. This way, Todd begins to gain a sense of autonomy, completing a task by himself, and he's learning how to make independent decisions, which will help him build up a sense of confidence and trust in his own abilities. So, like with Piaget during the earliest stages, it is more difficult to define punishment for children when they are just infants. So during the trust versus mistrust stage, babies are rewarded in a sense by receiving care and attention, such as being held when they cry, fed when they're hungry, changed when their diaper is wet. And while they aren't typical punishments in this stage per se, parents may discourage fussing by allowing older children to self-soothe rather than constantly attending to them when they cry at night. In the autonomy versus shame stage, parents may reward children by supporting or complimenting their decisions. This will foster autonomy and independence. A large part of autonomy in this stage is potty training, so parents may find innovative ways to ensure their children are properly using the bathroom on their own and may disincentivize them from having accidents so long as it's within the child's control. Additionally, in allowing children more agency over their choices, such as dressing themselves or deciding on meals, parents may deter kids from making unhealthy choices about their own diet. So during the trust versus mistrust stage, parents should be consistent and interactive with their child, responding to cries and signals that the child puts out, and taking care of their physical and emotional needs. Failure to do so by being inconsistent, being emotionally unavailable, harsh, or unreliable could lead to the baby developing a sense of mistrust and having a lack of confidence in the world or in their abilities to influence events, and it could affect future development stages. During the autonomy versus shame stage, Erikson believes that it's important that parents allow children to explore their new abilities and to make independent decisions, all within a safe and supportive environment that has room for failure. They should let children try to do things by themselves, such as put on clothes or put things away, until they succeed or ask for help. Parents should try not to be overprotective, but should be an active presence so that the child is not constantly failing. When the child does fail at a task, they should not criticize a child for failures or accidents as to not break down the child's self-confidence. So in conclusion, just to wrap up comparing these two theories, both theories are discontinuous. They differ in that Piaget is focusing on cognitive development, whereas Erikson is focusing on psychosocial. So Piaget kind of hones in more on the development of a child's understanding of their world through their own perspective and kind of in the ways that they think and how they apply logic, whereas Erikson seems to focus on the development of the child's sense of self more in their relation to others. So thank you for listening to our presentation.